Hello, Michelle from Kronosaurus Korner from Dinosaur University. How are you?
I'm great, Professor Flint. How are you?
Oh, absolutely fantastic and wonderful to talk to you. So Kronosaurus Korner, tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you've got there. Just broadly, so people that haven't been there. You're in Richmond in Queensland, and marine reptiles is part of your specialty, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's really weird to imagine that this outback Queensland was once the Eromanga Sea. So between approximately 98 to 110, maybe a bit more million years ago, this area here was a shallow sea, maybe 40 to 60 metres deep, that had all sorts of creatures swimming around it, trying to eat each other or trying to avoid being eaten. And then on the shores, we also had these gorgeous dinosaurs that were roaming the earth as well.
So right where you're sitting, if you were there 100 million years ago, right on your chair, you looked up, you'd have plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs swimming above your head, and you'd actually have to have some kind of breathing apparatus.
True. Yes.
And that's one of the cool things about paleontology, isn't it? When we learn about the place where we live and start to understand the different layers of life that's lived there over the years.
Yes.
So what I want to do, though, I want to go back in time a little bit, not quite as far yet as 100 million years or so. We'll come to that in a bit. But just, how did you come to be sitting under the Eromanga Sea at Kronosaurus Korner?
That's a good story. So maybe, I think it was back maybe around 2005. I was living in Brisbane and I met the founder of the museum with my two sons. And Rob said to us, come up to Richmond, you'll find some fossils that you can keep, and I promise that you'll have a great time. So we did. And I just kept taking opportunities from that moment. I fell in love with Richmond and the area and the fossils, and gained lots of experience with different organisations and different colleagues. And 3 years ago, I applied for the position of Curator at Kronosaurus Korner and had to pinch myself because I got the job, and I've been loving it ever since.
That's a pretty cool story, isn't it? So you got to go to the place, you met the person, and then different things came up, and you said yes to them, and all Absolutely. Of those yeses, and this is a really, I think, really important part of this story of yours. All of those going, yes, I'll volunteer, yes, I'll do this, yes, I'll do some learning. All of those steps have led to you being here.
That's right.
What a cool story that is.
I think
so. And because you've done nursing as well, is that right?
Yes, I'm still a nurse. I've been nursing for over 30 years, and I've been able to apply my understanding of human anatomy to the anatomy of those creatures that were swimming around in the oceans, and you can apply it to animals that are alive today as well. Anything that's got a backbone or being a vertebrate has got a very similar anatomy. Same bones, just in different shapes.
And I remember when I came to visit, you showed me there was a fossil and you said, oh, that's got arthritis on it, right. Which tells us that obviously it's a fossil that grew old. Did that background in nursing help you to be able to see things like that?
It helps me understand things generally. Seeing that arthritis in that bone, it's in one of our specimens here, that was actually pointed out to me, but I was able to agree that yes, human arthritis in an X-ray looks similar to what that bone presents as. But it's just having that foundation of basic vertebrate anatomy and being able to apply it to different settings has been very, very beneficial.
Fantastic. Now, at Kronosaurus Korner, I recall when I first walked in, my first response is, wow, this is an amazing collection of things. And you get to work on those things through doing paleontological stuff. What's something you're working on at the moment that you could show us?
Well, I'm in my prep lab. and this is where we have some of our collection is housed here, but it's also where I do the prep of the fossils. I bring them in from the field, and either using anything from just a dry paintbrush right through to the air tools and the chisels, I'm able to extract the matrix or the surrounding rock from these fossils. And I've actually got a really exciting piece that I'm very excited to share with you. I'll hold it up so that you can see it.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's pretty special. This is the tip of an ichthyosaur snout or rostrum. You can see the jaw bones along here and up the top, but in between, you can see all the little teeth.
You can indeed. Now, I've got a question for you. We often find the snout, don't we? That front part of the snout in the fossil record broken off. Why is that?
Well, there's a hypothesis that we have in that when these creatures die, they're spearing down into the sea floor, and it's when they get stuck and snap that we end up with that fractured rostrum.
Of course, so they're down, 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 nose stuck in the sand, snap.
That's correct.
Of course, and it's interesting, isn't it? When we see multiple examples of something like that, that tells us, that suggests, okay, that there's a pattern here, there's something going on.
That's right.
Okay, now, so back to that ichthyosaur fossil. How was it found nearby? It's in the area?
Yes, so we've got some dig pits out here that the public are able to access. You get a permit for that from Kronosaurus Korner reception, and then we give the instructions or the map on how to get there. And one of my volunteers, this is probably going back 6 weeks ago, he came down from his home. He lives about 6 hours away and stayed in Richmond area for some time. And he was out digging it to dig site 2, and he gave me a call and he said, I'm going to need some help. I've got a pretty big specimen, and it's an ichthyosaur, and I've got skull material. So I went out with him and helped him. He'd made the jacket himself out of plaster and hessian, and I helped him turn that over. And in the process of turning it over, we saw that there was a little bit stuck and left down, that had become separated. So you'll see that there's a piece here that's the contact point to the piece that's in the jacket. So in addition to this beautiful piece, I've got a jacket that's on the other side of the table, and it's about 1.2 meters by maybe 60 centimeters. Yes, that's right. Yep. And in that is the contact point for this. So I'm in the process of picking away and removing that surrounding matrix so that I can find where that contact point would be and see if it's worthwhile joining them back together.
Now, for those that don't know, the jacket is the plaster that you wrap around the fossil, and there are different layers that you put on it, like sometimes newspaper and cloth and stuff, because the fossil is so very fragile in the field. You can't just pick it up and carry it, so you put it in a jacket, and part of it is that you plaster the top, you flip it over, and that's always a fun thing, isn't it? Because you do sometimes, when you flip it over, there's something else, as you're talking about, that you found just there. So what you've just shown us was basically only dug up 6 weeks ago.
That's correct, yes, yes. And because we've had no visitors, you're one of the first people to see it.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, that wonderful experience. And this is one of the cool things about going to Kronosaurus Korner, and in fact visiting that whole region, isn't it? You get to go out and see stuff. You can get that permit. Now, if I got a permit and came up there, could I just go digging and take anything I like?
No. So part of the permit is it's a contract between you and us, saying that you'll show us what you find and we'll determine if it's significant enough to be donated to the museum, or if you're able to take it with you.
Yeah, cool. And I suppose the really cool thing is if you find something really cool, you want to know what it is. And the best person in the area in Richmond to let you know what it is, that'd be you, wouldn't it, as the curator of the museum?
That would be me. That would be me. Yes, yes.
Okay, so go on.
I was going to say, I've also got some really good staff here that have got the ability to identify things, but I'm on hand here most days to help identify exactly what you find in the pits.
And that's the cool thing. It's always about the team, isn't it? There's always a team of people that make these things possible, and especially volunteers do such a remarkable job.
Absolutely.
So I want to move on now, because we're talking about plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs, and there's a woman who lived a couple of 100 years ago called Mary Anning that I'm sure you've heard of.
Yes.
And she was the first person to discover some of the kinds of things that you've got at Kronosaurus Korner. So what I wanted to ask is, when you were growing up, like, were you aware of her? I mean, you probably knew she sells seashells by the seashore, but did you know of her as a person in science, or is it somebody you've learned about later?
When I was growing up, I only knew about the rhyme about selling seashells by the seashore. To be honest, I wasn't really into paleontology when I was a young girl. It was only as I had...
Okay, goodbye. No, that's all right. Forgiven, because you're into it now.
My love of paleontology came about because I was the mother of these two boys that were just dinosaur mad, and I had no choice but to upskill myself in all things dinosaurs and marine reptiles.
Excellent.
And coming out to Richmond when I did, and learning about the paleontology, the marine reptiles, the ichthyosaurs and things like that, and the history back in England, I certainly became very aware of Mary Anning. And when I was overseas on my Churchill Fellowship in 2017, I actually volunteered at the Lyme Regis Fossil Festival, and that's the birthplace of Mary Anning and the birthplace of the marine reptile paleontology, where she found all of these gorgeous specimens and wasn't able to become involved in the research because she was just a female, and so she sold the specimens and things. It was just truly remarkable to be there, walking in her footsteps perhaps at Lyme Regis.
Yeah, I can imagine knowing the contribution that you're then, you're seeing the same sea that she saw, you're looking at the same cliffs, walking the same streets. And how did that, I guess, was it almost like hair on the back of the neck stuff?
It was really unbelievable. It was really, really special to me because of my love of the marine reptiles rather than the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are great, but my passion is in the marine creatures. And just the history that was surrounding that area, how they've embraced it, how her legacy continues on with the Lyme Regis area itself, with people being able to go and find fossils, with the advances that we've had in paleontology since she found those first specimens. I actually went to the Natural History Museum in London in 2006 and was able to see her specimens that she found, and that was pretty special. But actually going to Lyme and walking along those beaches and imagining that not much has really changed from that perspective over the last 200 years or so, and just the advances in paleontology, particularly from a female perspective, that she perhaps started or enabled, it was very, very special.
Absolutely. And I think the way you've answered the question very much tells us of where you see she sits in paleontology and science, because, growing up, you learn about Einstein quite rightly. You learn about, some amazing science like Galileo, all of those. But part of what we're wanting to do and through the work that you do as well, it's about sharing these incredible stories, isn't it?
It is.
Look, Michelle, on that note, I'm going to say thank you. This has been a wonderful chat. Thank you for telling us a little bit about your story, showing us that fossil that you found you helped dig up just 6 weeks ago, and for sharing these wonderful insights with Mary Anning.
You're very, very welcome, Prof. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.